Good morning. Welcome to All People's Church, Unitarian Universalist. My name's Mary Kerwin, and I'm here to help lead worship and co-celebrate with Reverend Laura Brandis, who returns to our pulpit, having been with us last August. We are happy to see all of you on this first Sunday in December. First Sunday means that it's Potluck Sunday at All People's Church, and we hope that you'll be able to stay after the service and join us at the luncheon. Our Sunday service is a shared time of worship for all present as we gather for music, spoken words, a time of reflection and inspiration as a religious community. Let us come together in a spirit of compassion and respect for ourselves and others attending this service. We especially welcome those who are visiting today. If you haven't done so yet, please sign in at the visitors table by the front door, where you can be placed on our mailing list to receive our weekly emails and our monthly newsletter. Before we continue on to worship, we have a few announcements. First, our annual tree trimming party is today after potluck in the library. And I see that the kids are getting ready as we speak. We'll have treats, crafts, and fun trimming the tree with our homemade ornaments. We expect Mr. and Mrs. Claus to stop by. We invite everyone, young and old, to attend. And next Sunday, December 11th, the All People's Church Choir, under the direction of Michael Nguyen, will present our annual holiday concert performing Stella Natalis by the English composer Carl Jenkins. Stella Natalis means star of birth, and it conveys through music the Christmas message of peace, goodwill, compassion, and a new beginning. This special concert will take place during our regular worship hours starting at 11 a.m. We'd like to thank Michael Zapata for donating to supply all of the poinsettias that we have. And thank you, Michael. I'm not sure if he's here. Yeah. And if any of you would like to contribute to the Poinsettia Fund, you can check with David Bindi, who is, we all know David. A final announcement, our pianist, Misha Bereshnev, will perform in a piano duo at 6 p.m. on this Tuesday, December 6th, at the Reby Carey Youth Library at 3851 East Lancaster Avenue here in Fort Worth. They will perform their take on Chris Van Allsburg's beloved holiday classic, The Polar Express. It's about a boy who doesn't believe in Santa Claus, until he takes an adventuresome ride on a train to the North Pole. It is especially for children, but also for all ages. The event is free, and it's sponsored by the Clyburn and the Fort Worth Public Library. And finally, a brief introduction of Reverend Laura. Laura has served congregations in Utah, Idaho, California, and Texas. She was the settled minister for Horizon UU in Carrollton for 5 years. Most recently, she served this year as the sabbatical minister at First Unitarian in Dallas from January through July. Semi-retired, she spends most of her days with twin grandchildren, Rose and James, as their Nana-nanny. Reverend Brandis is also on call as a hospital chaplain for Texas Health Frisco. So welcome back, Reverend Laura. Thank you. And now, please settle comfortably for our musical prelude.
Good to be here with you again. Hear these words from poet, Methodist minister, artist Jan Richardson as your call to worship. Blessing for the longest night. All throughout these months, as the shadows have lengthened, this blessing has been gathering itself, making ready, preparing for this night. It has practiced walking in the dark, traveling with its eyes closed, feeling its way by memory, by touch, by the pull of the moon, even as it wanes. So believe me when I tell you this blessing will reach you, even if you have not light enough to read it. It will find you, even though you cannot see it coming. You will know the moment of its arriving by your release of the breath you have held so long, a loosening of the clenching of your hands, of the clutch around your heart, a thinning of the darkness that had drawn itself around you. This blessing does not mean to take the night away, but it knows its hidden roads knows the resting spots along the path, knows what it means to travel in the company of a friend. So when this blessing comes, take its hand, get up, set out on the road you cannot see. This is the night when you can trust that any direction you go, you will be walking toward the dawn. Come, let us worship together.
I invite you to stand in body or spirit for the lighting of our chalice. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but we're connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. Please remain standing and join in singing our opening hymn, O Come, Emmanuel, number 225 in our gray hymnal. Is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. Please be seated. And Reverend Laura invites the young and the young at heart to come forward for our story for all ages.
So I have a question for everyone this morning, but I'm hoping that you will help me think about this for a minute. So who here is afraid of the dark? Raise your hand. Anyone? Quite a few people? So why do you think you're afraid of the dark? Yeah. You're thinking about it? Yeah. Because something scary might happen in the dark? Yeah. And that's what you think too? Yeah. No. What else? Oh, so you might get scared in the dark if no one's at home with you. Yeah, yeah. I do that. In fact, I was thinking about that Friday night. My husband Frank was over taking care of our oldest granddaughter, Aida, and I was home alone. And the first thing I did when I walked home was turn on all the lights. Right? So. I did. So why do you think we do that? Why do you think we're afraid of the dark, and even when we're home alone we think, "Oh, it'll be okay if I just turn on the lights. Everything will be okay if I just turn on the lights." Because then you can see everything. We are afraid of the dark because maybe there's something unknown that we don't know about. And if we turn on all the lights, we can figure it out. Exactly. Yes. You're not, say that again. You're afraid of not being alone in the dark? You don't know if you're alone or not. So if you turn on the lights, you can know. Yeah. You can look around and find out. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do that too. I do. I don't know if anyone else does this, but do you ever take the shower curtain and look? Have you done that? I mean, I do that in a hotel room, but I actually have done that in my own house before. For some reason, because I'm alone and it's dark, it's going to be worse. Now, if Frank was there and it was dark, I wouldn't be as scared. I don't know why, but there's something about that being alone in the dark that we don't like the unknown. We have to turn on the light and know what's going on, right? Yeah, right. Sometimes people can't, they have to have a light on to sleep in the dark, but others, that light bothers them because it keeps you awake. So, yes. Did you have something you wanted to say? No. You just want to sit here? You can sit here. That's okay. I like that. That's good. So, I think that we can learn to be okay in the dark. We can learn to be okay with not knowing what might happen. We can learn to be as comfortable in the dark as we are in the light, because sometimes, is the light always better? Is light always good and dark is bad? No. Yeah, if you leave a light on, then they can see into your house, right? And see that you're not there. So light isn't always good and dark bad. Dark can be good. For plants and animals, bats love the dark. Yeah. I mean, sometimes plants, you need the dark of the earth to grow, right? So it's not always that dark is bad and light is good. Sometimes we need, well, not sometimes, we always need both, right? You always need both dark and light. If we didn't have the moon, we wouldn't be here. We would not be here, she says. We need the moon and the sun for life. We need the moon and the sun.
Fish outer space.
Wow. And there's a picture of outer space right here, which can be very dark, but...
Yes.
And the moon can reflect some light, too. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for thinking this through with me. I knew there would be some of you here who are afraid of the dark like I am. And sometimes it's... Did we figured it out? You think we did? Okay. Okay. All right, we can all go home now. Figured it out. All right. Well, you can go to your classes. We'll sing you to your classes. We'll hang out here for a little while more and think about this. Okay, you can go. Thank you.
It's all getting very exciting. Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and hope, for we are now the keepers of the dream. And as is our custom, we share the undesignated offerings of our plate. Our Share the Plate recipient this month is Raices, which is the Refugee and Immigrant Center for Education and Legal Services. The offering will now be accepted. Will the ushers please come forward?
Reading is a poem, The Darkness Divine, by Unitarian Universalist minister Kristen L. Harper. It is from her book called The Darkness Divine, A Loving Challenge to My Faith. God resides in depths of darkness as in the light of sunbeams. The moon shines brighter surrounded by night, and life is secure in the black waters of the womb. As the night sky littered with stars demonstrates again and again, there is beauty in darkness and beauty in light, one no more brilliant than the other, one no more necessary than the other, one always complementing the other. Without the heated darkness of the universe, splitting neutrons, electrons, and protons from atoms, life and light would never be. The task for us today is to recognize God in both, to see the divine in the rich brown earth, the textured black walnut, as well as the white snow and the pale pink jellyfish, to see the sacred in the panther and the swan, to embrace the dignity of the Black Madonna as it is embodied in the Virgin Mary. The task for us today is to look into the multifaceted colors of the onyx and see the miraculous spectrum of color produced in the prism of a diamond. Now, if you would please rise in body or in spirit and join us in hymn number 224, Let Christmas Come.
Now, at this time in our service, we pause to honor and to give time and attention to those things that are most important to us. We gather here for healing and for peace in our hearts and in the world, to honor our time together with shared stories and news from the congregation. Each week, there is a journal outside the entrance in the sanctuary where you can write a message of memory or hope. Also, at any time during the service, you are welcome to come forward and light a candle in our meditation center here at the side of the chancel. Today, from our book of memory and hope, there are several stories. Our church library is offering for free a variety of Christmas and other greeting cards at a special stand in the library. Members are encouraged to use them while the supplies last. Someone else has noticed that the trees are beautiful today. I am grateful for anthocyaneus. So I'm not sure which plant they're referring to, but I too am grateful for all the greenery and floral in the sanctuary. I'd like to lift up a personal story. The name of my sister-in-law, Kathleen Kelly, has been living with and being treated for a brain tumor for almost 1 year now. She lives in the Boston area with my brother, Peter. She's still being able to live at home with the support of her family and visiting nurses. And we all continue to hope and pray for many more good and precious days for Kathleen. And today we learn news from one of our members in the congregation, Connie Nolan, has admitted, I'm sorry, this news is hard. Connie Nolan's husband, Dan, has been moved to hospice care at Arlington Memorial Hospital. Dan had been suffering from several strokes the last several months, and we're truly saddened to hear this news from Connie about Dan being in hospice care. Let us also include in our circle of concern those beyond our immediate community. Let us open our minds and hearts to the place of quiet, to the silent prayer for the healing of pain and the soft, gentle coming of love. Please now pause for a few moments of quiet meditation to hold and to uplift the sorrows and the celebrations, both spoken and unspoken among us.
A second reading from Learning to Walk in the Dark, Because Sometimes God Shows Up at Night, by Barbara Brown Taylor. I cannot remember the last time I heard anyone use dark to describe something good. Fear of the dark has been sanctified in so many people's minds that I have to define my terms. not once, but over and over again. Because without constant reminders that darkness is not a synonym for mortal or spiritual danger, most people I know revert to the equation without even thinking about it. It is as if they have a default setting for darkness in their minds that automatically resets every time the sun comes up. In the full light of day, darkness becomes the most convenient place for them to store all their shadows. The fear of the unknown, their anxiety about the future, their loathing of their own helplessness, their bottomless dread of death. The words of Barbara Brown Taylor. 10 years ago, I received a phone call from a reporter asking if I would be addressing the Sandy Hook tragedy in my Christmas message. The reporter was interviewing local clergy, and having grown up as a Unitarian Universalist, she was eager to include our approach to the tragedy during what is supposed to be a joyful time of year. Her words. She was aware that most clergy had immediately addressed the mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary the Sunday right after it had occurred. What she wanted to know was, would we continue to address the tragedy at a time of year when people are supposed to be happy? Again, her words. I reminded her that Unitarian Universalists always worship within the context of how the world is now. I assured her that even without specifically referring to the Connecticut tragedy, that it would be on our minds as we looked to this time of year, not as a time when we are supposed to be happy, but as a time that we acknowledge the ancient wisdom in the symbol of light shining in the darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it. This is the time of year when the world turns from the darkness of the longest night to more light in the lengthening of each day. This turning from darkness to light and back again each year is not a choice. It is the way things are. It is the way things are. But in my earnest attempt to provide a sound bite for a local reporter, I had fallen into the language trap that is more pronounced at this time of year. This time of year we say, and I used to say exactly this. Here I am quoting myself, having gone back through old services from December. This is exactly what I used to say. We gather here to make sense out of the darkness that descends during the shortest days of the year. Our ancestors once feared the sun would never return. Our fears are different now. Knowing that the days gradually lengthen and the light moves in and out of balance with the darkness, we instead fear the darkness that descends from injustice, brutality, and abuse. We fear the darkness hiding in the deep shadows of the human heart. We fear each other and our own powerlessness. The hope of the season is that light returns. The lamps of freedom remain lit. Love wins, I would say, because as we all know, love and light always travel together. Writer, professor, and Episcopal priest Barbara Brown Taylor writes, I cannot remember the last time I heard anyone use dark to describe something good. Fear of the dark has been sanctified in so many people's minds that I have to define my terms, not once, but over and over again. Because without constant reminders that darkness is not a synonym for mortal or spiritual danger, most people I know revert to the equation without even thinking about it. I confess, I have been one of those people who revert to the equation without even thinking about it. This year, this holy season, I am looking for meaning beyond the overused binary of light and darkness. I have embraced the task that Unitarian Universalist minister Kristen Harper sets before us, to find God in the depths of darkness and in the light of sunbeams. In The Darkness Divine, a loving challenge to my faith, Reverend Dr. Harper shifts between personal essays and poetry to examine how the damaging equation of darkness as evil reinforces white supremacy culture. She tells her story about how it has been for her as a Black woman minister serving our faith for more than 20 years. Now, it is not for me to tell her story. I encourage you to read her book. I encourage you to study her book, especially in the context of approving the 8th principle. Now, I have written this so that I can address any visitors or those less familiar with the 8th principle, but as I came into the sanctuary this morning, I noticed that you have it here and that you are going to study it. You're studying it within the context of all of the principles. Our 7 principles now, hoping that we will add this 8th. I will share it with you here. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote, journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. It is not for me to tell you the Reverend Dr. Harper's story. I do encourage you to read her book. I also encourage you to consider how you use the word dark and the concept of darkness. How has the fear of dark been sanctified for you? Do you revert to the common equation that darkness is a synonym for mortal or spiritual danger? Well, if you do, you're not alone. We heard all of us talking with the kids this morning about how there is a fear of the dark, but even they understand that dark is not all bad and light is not all good. And yet, we have these images that we default to. Now, it is not for me to tell you the Reverend Dr. Harper's story, but I will share with you some of the history of the word black she explores in her book. She points out that it was sometime in the 1300s that black became associated with sin and sorrow in English-speaking countries. By the mid-1400s, when the doctrine of discovery was used to justify colonization, black was used to mean terrible, wicked, without moral or spiritual light. Africans and other indigenous people were characterized as wicked and without moral or spiritual light. In Harper's analysis, this was the beginnings of the denigration of blackness and of darkness. In order to appreciate the fullness of life, we need to relearn the value of darkness. I think this is a perfect time of year to relearn the value of darkness. It is the perfect time of year to appreciate the holy darkness. Now, just as I have confessed to you that I have been one of those people who revert to the equation that dark equals bad and light equals good, I will now confess to you that I don't like Christmas very much. It has something to do with what the reporter asked me 10 years ago. How could we face tragedy, she wondered, at a time when we were supposed to be happy? How could we acknowledge pain at such a joyful time of year? This is why I have never been a big fan of Christmas. Why all this forced joy? What's wrong with feeling both sorrow and joy during this dark, there it is, time of year? After all, Christmas is often a sad time when we are reminded of those no longer at the table. For many, this year is a first Christmas, the first without a loved one, and their absence sings louder than one more verse of Jingle Bells or Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. We are taught not to go there, to stay away from difficult emotions, to fear the dark, to stay in the light no matter what. Because there are blessings waiting for us in the dark of our most difficult emotions. It is important that we do go there. It is important that we discover what we do not know about ourselves. Barbara Brown Taylor calls a spirituality that stays on the sunny side of faith full solar spirituality. Full solar spirituality divides the dark from the light, dumping all that is bad and evil into the dark category and all that is righteous and good into the light category. This is the perfect time of year to confront full solar spirituality and embrace holy darkness. Consider this part of the Christmas story. The shepherds are tending their flock by night, but it's not until the angel shows up in a blaze of light that they become afraid. We light candles in the darkness and extol the virtues of a miraculous light that cannot be overcome by the dark. Yet, the dark cannot exist without the light. The light cannot exist without the dark. It is that simple. It is that complicated. We live with forced binaries given to us by the legacy of white supremacy culture. We dare not explore our painful emotions during the time of year when we are supposed to be happy. Yet, this is a perfect time of year to honor both light and dark as holy. If that reporter were to call me today with her question, I would be careful not to revert to the old equation of dark equals bad and light equals good. It is difficult to find new images that honor both light and dark as holy. I would still say something about how Unitarian Universalists always worship within the context of how the world is now. I would say again how the Connecticut tragedy would be on our minds, is still on our minds 10 years later, as we looked to this time of year not as a time when we are supposed to be happy. I might confess to the reporter how I'm not a fan of Christmas, because I don't like being told I'm supposed to be happy. I might then tell her about my friend who doesn't like the holidays because they find them to be disruptive. And I have been thinking about this, and I think that's right. This season should be disruptive. The joy, the sorrow, the tragic nature of life, the absolute awe of how life unfolds, all of this should disrupt us from our daily routines. Finding a new language for how the holy shows up as a baby born in poverty, how the comfort of the night sky is disrupted by a glaring light, how, as Dr. Harper puts it, God resides in depths of darkness as in the light of sunbeams. This is all very disruptive. This is the time of year when the world turns from the darkness of the longest night to the light in the lengthening of each day. This turning from darkness to light and back again each year is not a choice. It is the way things are. And it is holy. May it be so, and amen. Please rise now in body or in spirit and join us in singing hymn number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning.
We extinguish this chalice, and may this flame that has brightened our time together warm our hearts, light our paths, and inspire our vision as we once again go our separate ways.
May you learn to walk in the dark. May you learn to see the holy in darkness as well as the light. This is the perfect time of year to honor those things, not as a binary, but as working together in balance, giving us life, giving us love, reminding us that all is holy. Go in peace, blessed be, and amen. And stay and join us for the potluck. If you haven't brought a dish to share, you are welcome. It would be wonderful to fellowship with you